Good morning, everyone. Following the Cobras yesterday, were they incredible or what? And then, and today the Alvin Ailey dancers. The best I have for you is this jacket. I thought maybe that might help a little bit. This morning I want to talk to you about three things: how you treat other people, taking risk, and having courage. You know, a lot of people, when they are leaving school, I remember so much, and going to your first job, you want to make sure that you have all the skills you need. So you are working and studying and making sure that you know what you're supposed to be doing. But most people fail at their job because of personnel issues. Personality, the ability to get along, the ability to fit in, and also the problem with making sure that you listen before you talk. I've been at my job now for 10 years. This is the longest I've ever been anywhere. And I see young people coming in all the time, and I'm so excited and happy, and they're gorgeous and smart. But I can tell you right away who's going to make it and who will be gone in a year. And most of the time, I'm right. It's the person who, at the all-staff meeting, hears about, we're having trouble raising money. So they raise their hand and give a solution that's so obvious, you would have had to be really, really incompetent not to have thought of that already. So you have to ask first, what's been done? What's been tried? What were the issues? I know that we think we're really smart, and you are, but you are even smarter when you listen and learn and feel the environment. That's something that no one teaches you about. The culture, the environment. Even in strategic planning, we always say culture trumps strategy, because culture is the overriding, unseen thing in every organization, especially nonprofits, that will make a difference in your life. And can you fit into that culture? Do you want to? And what happens if you don't? I've worked places where I have not fit into the culture. I have spent most of my life being a first or only. First Black, first woman, only Black person, only woman, only person with a law degree, only person not from the community. So I've had to make sure that I understand in my environment, my culture. To give you a cute story, when I lived in Miami, we were so bright and vivacious, and we wore orange and pink. And I had this beautiful pink suit that I just loved. So I was going to a big event for my job, so I was all dressed up and put on my bright, hot pink suit. Now, I had just moved to Michigan, and I walked in the room, I looked like I was on fire. Everybody else had on brown and gray and black and blue. And so it's a small thing, but I decided to jettison that pink suit. Now that I'm older, I wouldn't do it, but starting my career, I did, because understanding and fitting into the environment was important. However, let me get to the second point, and that is take risk. If you are ever going to take risk, now is the time. You cannot be afraid. You all are some of the brightest people, the smartest people. If I had half of the courage and the self-confidence that I see you young folks having who come to work with me, I would have gone so much further. Because in my day, we wanted to please other people. We wanted to make other people happy. And we would do anything to get that little pat on the back. And you all want to do a good job, but you want to make sure that you are happy, that you are pleased. And I admire that so much. But you have to have courage. one of the questions up here was, would you relocate for a job? Well, first of all, my father was an Army colonel, so I've lived 13 different places. I was born in Germany. I've lived there, gone to school there, and worked there throughout my life. My family is from New Orleans, and that's what I consider my culture and my home. But remember, I've lived 13 places. I've moved 5 times for jobs. I've had 8 jobs, and I've moved 5 times. I graduated from law school in Syracuse. I moved from Syracuse to Indianapolis back to Washington, D.C. to work in public policy at United Way of America. Yay, United Way. And I worked then I went to Florida, to Miami, because I wanted to be head of a division and have a staff. And I could do that by moving to a local affiliate. And after Indianapolis, United Way of America, and Florida, I decided I wanted something else in the nonprofit sector. I wanted to understand more about where these problems came from. When I was in Miami during the 90s, during the just horrible crack epidemic, very similar to what you're going through now with the opioid epidemic, I wanted to understand why I had a Girl Scout troop leader come to United Way and say that some of the mothers of the girls in her troop were selling their daughters to pay for crack. How does that happen? What are the root causes? So then I went to go work at a university in a nonprofit where I was vice president of a think tank about urban education at Michigan State University. So I moved from Miami to Michigan in the winter. Okay, that's courage. So I stayed there, and then living in the university, quite frankly, wasn't enough action for me. There's a lot of writing books and writing proposals, and we did great stuff, and I know that so many of your professors are here, and they're fabulous, but it just wasn't for me. If you can tell, a little bit of an extrovert, so I needed to get out. So I decided to have another job, and I moved to Washington to head up an international child welfare organization. And then from there, I became president and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Metropolitan Washington. And then now I'm executive vice president of Volunteers of America, which is a faith-based organization. And while I'm here, I have become an ordained minister. So that's a lot of different stuff. That's a lot of different stuff. Why I'm telling you that is because I took risk every single time moving to a new city. And even the biggest risk and the biggest changes came from me, not when I moved, but to the 3 jobs I've had in the Washington, D.C. area. I decided that I loved the nonprofit sector very early on in my career. And back then, in the 80s, I was very concerned that people didn't understand that we are smart people and we choose the nonprofit sector. We are not people that couldn't get a job at Goldman Sachs and decided to work in the nonprofit sector. We are prepared and we choose this life, which if I had to choose all over again, it would be the exact same career path. Because the honor of working someplace where you have the ability to live your faith, to live your passion, to live whatever inspires you. I've had all these jobs, but in all of these jobs, I've done the same thing. I have been an advocate for women. I have been an advocate for children. I have helped organizations get outside and network and become hyperlinked. Because so many of our organizations in nonprofits, especially small ones, when we get a dime or a nickel, it goes to program. It doesn't go to marketing. It doesn't go to social media. We don't buy ads on television. And unless you're Boys and Girls Club, you don't have Denzel and all the hot guys from Hollywood talking about your mission. So what we have to do is pull the social workers, the people who love the clients, who love the program, out of the office, away from the desk, to understand that not only do you as an individual need to be hyperlinked, but nonprofits do. Why? Because in order to achieve anything of great stature that's going to last in this country, like policy change, like new ideas, like innovation, we have to work with other people. Here in Washington, back in Washington, we've been working on tax reform. We have coalitions of nonprofits from all over the country. We worked on making sure that the Johnson Amendment was not repealed. If you don't know what it is, Google it. And we had to, because we're a faith-based organization and a human service organization, we were really one of the top leaders of that. But we couldn't do it alone. We don't have the presence, we don't have the money, we don't have the personnel. So we have to network and do our work through coalitions. And if there's not a coalition in your community, start one. And people are still starting coalitions. This year in Washington, it's been like drinking out of a fire hose. We've never had so many public policy issues that are going to impact the way that we run, fund, and staff nonprofit sector. Arts, humanities, environment, everybody. And it pulled us all together and made us stronger and richer. And the next step that I have been advocating for a long time is to make sure that we use frameworks and we use whatever media we have to let other people know what we do. There's still, during policy debates, you hear very smart senators talking as if nonprofits means feeding the homeless in the basement with volunteers. That is not who we are. We do help feed the homeless, but we look at structure, we look at community finances. We are one of the most regulated sectors in the country because we work with human beings. And we do something that is so hard. You have to have courage to even try it. That is to change people's lives, to change people's habits, to change people's thoughts so that the hopeless can't get off the couch until they believe they have the right to hope. And in this day and age, you have so much to go into your career to work on. But I can tell you that it has not been a straight path. It has not been zooming up to be a CEO. It has been circuitous at best. It has been lonely most of the time. And the thing that I experienced more than anything else was exclusion. Being excluded. I didn't even try to figure out, is it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm African American? Is it because I'm tall? Is it because my grandfather's from the Philippines? Who knows? It doesn't matter. It happened. And when you move and when you have a new job, it's because you have to take the responsibility to become hyperlinked so that no matter how excluded you may be, you're not alone. That exclusion forced me to look outside of wherever I was working to build coalitions, alliances, friends, no matter where I was. And it worked. Also, inside the organization, people understood that I was so connected and knew so many people. It helped, and that I could help the organization. Writing op-eds on different subjects, joining different organizations, going to hear an author, someone that I like. Back in asking people out to eat. Now, that's the hardest thing to do. Now, when you're young and cute as a female, men are not going to want to eat with you. Now, at my age, men will eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, a snack, anything with me. But the best thing to do is to ask someone to breakfast or to coffee. And in this day and age, don't be naive. You have to make sure that the men that you ask understand you're going to breakfast or coffee because you want to learn from them. Too many women, especially I see this in nonprofits, don't take the time to network and align themselves with the men who have the power, the knowledge, and the history, and most of whom will be retired in the next 10 years. You are coming into nonprofits at an important time. This is a precipice. So many of the boomers are beginning to retire or think about retiring. Now, so many of them are hanging on to those jobs with their white knuckles, and they're almost in their 70s, dragging the organization around. But they, too, are going to retire or leave one day. And you need to be prepared to step in and to have the courage, to have the network, to have the audacity to become a leader. You don't start your career because you want to sit at the same desk for 20 years. You start this career because you want to make a change, because you believe in something, because you believe in yourselves. I love the nonprofit sector. Working here since I was a child over 30 years ago has been one of the best things for me and for my soul, for my heart, intellectually. I've been to many classes at Harvard. I have been in working with the sewer workers with United Way to talk to them about giving. And these people who are one paycheck away from being a client, give. People, I find out how incredible people are. But that doesn't mean you have to be naive. You have to understand that in this country, we're in a cultural divide. There's a resurgence of racism and sexism that is painful. And as young women, you have to be courageous. As young men, and especially young white men, you have to be courageous enough to speak the truth, to make sure that your path, when you look around, everyone in the room doesn't look like you. It's on you. Well, I always say I will never join another diversity committee in my life, because usually diversity committees are all the people of color. And I'm like, we're the white folk. I can't change this by myself. So being honest and truthful and looking beyond yourself, that's part of the mission that you are taking on. And you all are so exciting to me, to Susan, to everyone, your faculty members who are here with you, because you are going to take the nonprofit sector and move it to heights, to relevance, to importance, to financial stability that it has never seen before. And I applaud you and thank you for letting me talk to you this morning. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
First of all, thanks for speaking with us this morning. You talked about switching careers many times. I'm wondering, in each one, what was the catalyst? What criteria do you use to decide it's time for a change, or I want to seek out this other opportunity?
There are two things that happened. One, I always say the universe tells me when it's time to go. The projects that I'm working on have come to a completion. A new boss has come. There's a new management team. The organization is moving. There are things that make me understand that I want to leave. Then there are other things that I want to learn. I've always been interested in children. So working at Michigan State University gave me an opportunity to learn more about the children that I cared for when I was working on projects around foster care, about youth crime, about gangs. So I learned. And then when I went to Planned Parenthood, I was always interested in women's health. Because if you're not healthy, you cannot move your career, yourself, or anything else. So I was very committed to that. And I was also very interested in advocacy on the behalf of women, Volunteers of America is the culmination of everything I've ever learned. And it was just, I felt like I had been preparing for this all my life. There are jobs sometimes when you feel like, I've been preparing for this, this is it. I get to use my skills. I'm external affairs. I get to talk, I get to be out of the office, I get to be hyperlinked, and I get paid for it. So that is how I made my decisions. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you.